Austin, good to see you. A really important question today. What happens if you die without a will? Despite potentially devastating consequences, 54% of Americans don't have a will, leaving estate planning to a complicated range of state laws. So, Austin, who even needs a will? I think a lot of us assume wills are for the very wealthy, but even 1 in 5 Americans with 1 million or more doesn't have a will.
Yeah, Aaron, I think this is one of the very few areas, right, of personal finance that truly applies to almost everyone.
Hmm.
Right? If you own anything of any value, whether that's even as simple as a checking account, a savings account, personal belongings, furniture, right, all of those things are included in a will. And a will, in its simplest form, simply dictates who gets your stuff, right? So I think the last thing we want to do is really at a time of stress and heartache for many families is complicate that scenario by
Hmm.
not having proper documentation in place.
Hmm. That's an important point. If you die without a will, your loved ones may get nothing, especially if they are unmarried partners or stepchildren who are left out under the law in almost every scenario.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Aaron, that there are certain differences because this stuff is dictated by each state. So
Hmm.
I think having this will in place is very, very important because, as I mentioned, it simply dictates who gets your stuff and where it goes. And the last thing we want to do is leave that up to chance because
Hmm.
many folks, right, have saved their entire lives, accumulated these assets, whether it's retirement accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts. And the last thing we want to do is not have it transferred or distributed properly according to your wishes.
Right. So we want to break down a few tips for everybody then. You just mentioned this. It varies state to state. So number one, know your state's laws.
Very, very important, Aaron, here. And I think this is where we come into play as a qualified retirement planner and financial planner here is it's important to know that even if you don't have the resources in-house, a retirement planner or qualified financial planner can help be the quarterback in these situations. And for many of us individuals, it's a very complicated process, right? We're not sure what resources are out there for us, who to turn to. Do we need to use an elder care attorney who is local that may be familiar with your specific state's laws? And I think getting answers to all of these questions is something we help clients with all the time because it is such an important decision.
Hmm. Next, make sure all your assets are covered.
Yes, this one, unfortunately, we see all too often, whether it's a will or even, something like a revocable living trust.
Mm.
Perhaps the trust doesn't get funded, right? Assets aren't actually funded into the trust. So I think, as we move through life, it's very common, right? We move, we acquire different assets, different accounts. So be sure that you're revisiting this estate planning discussion at a minimum, I would say, every other year. Perhaps grandchildren are coming into the picture, right? So life's going to change. We know that's a fact we can count on. So it's so important that all of our assets are listed and that we revisit this on an annual basis. At a minimum, I would say every other year.
Okay. And last, of course, don't delay. A lot of us, though, do hesitate because this can bring up some really complex family dynamics.
Yeah, so if your family is anything like mine, it's not always the easiest to
Mhm.
have these discussions, right? And the harsh truth is, and harsh reality is that it's not fun to talk about, right? None of us want to think about what life will be like when we're not here, what position and predicament that may or may not put our loved ones in. But the easiest way to make that transition easier is to spend some time and discuss it now, right? Is put some thought into it before it actually gets here and plan and have that plan in place because, again, the last thing you want to put on your family and loved ones during this time of incredible stress and heartbreak is this additional puzzle of where are assets being transferred?
Absolutely.
How do I navigate this tumultuous time? So having
Mhm.
a plan in place and not delaying is really of paramount importance.
Right. Well said. Proactive planning. Austin, if somebody would like to create that plan with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yes, you can give us a call at 919-322-4113 or shoot us an email at info@patriotwealthnc.com.
All right. Austin, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.